So I was born premature by 6 weeks. I'm not the only child, actually. It was my sister and I. She's the older sibling. We were born minutes apart.
Twin sister?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Of all the people, like, she's my sister, my best friend, my hero.
Awesome.
She means a lot to me.
As you were growing up, challenges that you had to face, you mentioned about your school years, and that was a bit of a challenge as well. A lot of people can relate to that because, school isn't really, a walk in the park. I remember my school years, and yeah.
It isn't.
What kept you going through your school years?
What kept me going through my school years was sort of like the path where it's like you go to school, you get your degrees, like you have your plan ahead for your future, and the fact that I just wanted to make something of myself with this life.
So that got you through the vision of the future, that there is something more to this, that you are able to overcome what you're overcoming right now, and it's temporary.
It is that all these obstacles that I've had to deal with, they've all been temporary, but I knew that I just wanted to overcome them. I wanted to live as normal a life as I could do under the circumstances.
That's interesting that you brought up the idea or the concept of normal, because I've never been comfortable with that term, only because growing up, there's this idea of normal, and what does normal mean? Normal for me is slightly different to everyone else. I mean, what's your interpretation of normal?
Normal's being on my own 2 feet, where for years, it would just be like a procession of orthopedics, surgeries on my legs. I always felt like I was somehow different than everyone else. So when it comes to normalcy, just being on my own 2 feet is what I consider normal. Through my school years, I wasn't placed in special education classes for most of my school years. Classes with similar situations. So in reality, for the fact that I felt like I was going through this with all the complications on my own, that was not the case. If there are people in the world who are trying to make their way in it, have the same situations that I do, it's not that much of a surprise.
That's beautiful, Oswald. I like that. Thank you for sharing that, because sometimes we feel alone, but the fact is that there are other people in similar situations that can relate to us, and either they draw strength from us by looking at us and we're in this together, but you become a role model, and it works vice versa, because there might be somebody else who's going through what you're going through, and they become your role model.
Even though I don't consider myself a role model.
You are, brother. You are.
Whenever I hear people tell me that, I'm sort of like, really? I'm a role model. That's that doesn't quite square. Or I'm just down. I guess I don't want the head of as I go on a role model, all the pressure and the expectations on me. I just want to carry on my existence.
Carrying on your existence, that in itself, I think, is something to aspire to, and I think to look up to, because giving up is I guess not an option, because you are here now because you didn't give up at any point, having gone through all the struggles.
There have been moments where I felt like I wanted to give up, specifically going back to the summer of 2001. That summer I had 2 surgeries on my right leg, because the most profound complication that I had to deal with was a deformed pair of legs. So I had a few surgeries just on my legs alone earlier in my life. But back in 2001, it was decided that I would operate on my leg twice in 6 weeks. So I was I was lying in my bed, barely 3 days out of the hospital, in so much pain, multiple stitches and 3 pins in the middle toes, and in so much pain, and it's 90 degrees outside, smack in the middle of the summer. Wow. Just miserable, to the point where it's the pain medicine that they gave me, I consumed most of it, inevitably take it away from me, because it was in my reach, not in a good place at all. At that exact moment in time. But I figured, okay, I'm gonna have to put in all the effort to get myself better. I am tired of having braces, orthopedics, I'm tired of all this. I'm just like ready to like be able to stand on my own 2 feet for the first time in my life. So I gathered in all the will that I could, even though like it was difficult at times because I had to go to physical therapy twice a week, leaving Queens into Manhattan for 9 months. But it was all worth it to finally take that brace off my leg a year and a month later and take that first step unaided. Like I could not keep the smile off my face. And I tell everyone that is the single happiest day of my entire life, even with everything that's come along since. Like it's nothing that I do is going to top that moment.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Oswald. I've got a tear in my eye just listening to that. I mean, it's so powerful. You mentioned about that symbolic moment where you were standing literally on your own 2 feet and thinking back about all the I guess the challenges and the hardships to get you to that point, and also at times where it felt like you just felt like you're putting the tools down and just saying, look, is this worth it? You question yourself, is it worth doing all of this to get to, I guess, the future self, the future Oswald?
That September 2002, I started my senior year in high school. I couldn't lift the jean to the exact part of my leg where the brace once stood enough. It was just so much joy to know that part that was no longer there.
Oswald, thank you for sharing. I mean, it's just an amazing story. Now, I'm going to remind listeners, if you want to know more about Oswald's story, please get yourself a copy of the book, Authentic, Courageous Humans Who Changed Their Life by Rewriting Their Story, available in digital format and also in paperback format on Amazon. Both are available on Amazon, so do get yourself a copy. It's a really nicely written chapter by Oswald. Again, Oswald's a poet, and the way that he writes, it's truly amazing, because I can actually, when I'm reading it, I can actually feel your presence in front of me, and reading that story, literally in physical form, it's in front of me. So the way that you write is really, really, I guess, vivid.
Oh, thank you. It's I've heard that one quite a bit, where it's people tell me how vividly, it's almost like you're there with me.
Yes.
And granted, this, I admit, writing this chapter wasn't easy, because I never haven't written to this extent as I've done here, and I naturally all the second guessing, what should I keep, what should I write about, am I going to get to 2,500 words, all of that came up in the process of writing this chapter. But I was so grateful the fact that Wellsome, whose imprint, the Key Publishing House, has published both versions of Authentic, that she brought this opportunity to my attention, that was fire enough to see this challenge through.
That's amazing. Again, feedback coming from people can only mean one thing. You're doing a great thing there, so keep doing it, Oswald. Really appreciate it.